Give me 1 minute, guys. I'm so sorry for the install a new tool today called Nessus. So again, before we get into the practical part, a brief introduction on what Nessus is. Let me quickly open up the notes for that. Yeah. So again, what we're going to do with Nessus is we perform something called vulnerability scanning. So this vulnerability scanning is where we use predefined automated tools to scan a certain target system or a certain application or the entire network as well. And with that, we can scan for a lot of vulnerabilities. Now, when we talk about vulnerabilities, guys, in networks, there are usually two broad categories of vulnerabilities. One, we have something called misconfigurations. And two, we have something called published exploits. When you talk about misconfigurations, this is due to user error or user misconfiguration. Okay, so basically having unnecessary ports open, running outdated services, having the firewall configured in the wrong way, having confidential information leaking on different ports, having default passwords or weak passwords. All of these are misconfigurations. So this is not due to the developer or not due to the person who built that application, but with the person using that endpoint. Okay. Now, sometimes there might be some other kinds of vulnerabilities called published exploits. Now, these are not due to the user error, they're due to the developer. So your inbuilt application, your operating system, that service that you're using could have a vulnerability, a bug in its source code itself. Okay. And that is not due to the error of the user. The application was built in a faulty way. So what security researchers do is when they find something, like they publish it online. They report it to the vendor releases a patch, and after the patch is released, they let all the users know that this vulnerability exists and you have to update the patch. So that is also commonly known as patch management. Okay, so these are the two usually known vulnerabilities that exist in any device in a local network. So your job in vulnerability scanning is to find these vulnerabilities itself with this tool called Nessus. So Nessus is one of the best vulnerability scanners available on the internet. There are other alternatives as well. There's one called Nexpose. So if you go to your browser, in your browser, as mentioned, one of them is Tenable Nessus. This is the one which we'll be installing today. This is a vulnerability scanner, as mentioned. So we're going to install today this application in our system. There's other alternatives as well, as mentioned. There's one more called Nexpose. Okay, so this is one more. You can expose on-premise vulnerability scanner. Okay, there's something else called IBM QRadar as well. There's one more here. Okay, so these are all applications available which are capable of finding every vulnerability existing in your local network. Okay. And the reason I'm showing you Nessus specifically because this allows you to download a trial version. These other tools do not give you that option. You have to purchase the tool for free. You have to purchase a tool for a certain price. Even this trial version will only be available if you give your company ID or your organization email. If not, you cannot download the trial version. Okay, Nessus does not have any such rules or conditions. Okay, so there's a version of Nessus called Nessus Essentials, which is basically the trial version of Nessus, which is capable of scanning 16 devices in your network. So after that 16 devices, this trial will expire. So Nessus Essentials is an extension of Nessus family itself, which allows you to scan your network up to 16 IP addresses or devices per scan. And it works with the same high speed, in-depth assessments. Okay. So today we're just going to learn how do we install Nessus. And in the upcoming sessions, we learn how to run it, how to perform scanning, and how to get a report out of it. Okay. So first things first, let's register for Nessus here. Again, you can use any random usernames and passwords here. So let's say I use a name called John Wick. And now business email, you can also use your Gmail here if you want. Alternatively, if you don't want to give your personal Gmail account, you can also go to your browser and search for temp mail. So I would not recommend giving your email address everywhere, guys. You can use these temporary email services, which provide you an email address here, again, for a short duration of time, where you can receive verification codes or, OTPs, etc. Okay, so you can copy this email from here. And now I can paste it out over here. Business email, so and so email. And now when I click on get started, it registers me for this tool with this email ID. And again, now it says, thank you for registering for Nessus. Check your email for the activation code. So now this is going to send me an activation code on that email address provided. So if I go back to that temp mail, you can see I've got an email here from Tenable Nessus activation code. And when I click on that, I've got an activation code here. I just need to copy this and keep it aside for a while. And now we can download Nessus for free. So I can click on download Nessus here. This should give me all these links available. I have to go for Tenable Nessus, the first link. Click on view downloads and select the latest version. This is 10.7.3. That's the working version right now. And you can notice it's available for all sorts of platforms, for Linux operating systems, for Mac operating systems, for Windows as well, x86 or 64. So the one which I have to download right now is this one, x86_64. This is the compatible version for Windows 11. So I'm going to install Nessus in my base machine itself, guys. I would recommend you to do the same as well. Do not install it in your virtual machines because, again, this is quite a heavy tool. So better to install it in your base machine to have a good amount of RAM accessible. So again, select this version here. Click on download. Click on I agree. And now this should start downloading the application for you. And once downloaded, this is around the size of 100 megabytes exactly. Okay, so right click on this. You won't get the option called run as admin for this. So you just click on open. And now this starts the setup wizard. Now the setup wizard also, guys, has two parts to it. Okay, so this installation is a two-part procedure. Part one is, again, you get this wizard here. Click on default options. Next. I accept the terms. Next. Default path, C program files to enable Nessus. Don't change anything here. Click on next again. And click on install. This is step one. After this is done, step two is going to open up in your browser automatically. So you won't have Nessus as an inbuilt application, guys. It runs in your browser on a certain port number. So it only runs as a web-based service in your system. So when you click on finish, it opens up your browser on the port 8834. So this is the default port number that is used by Nessus. This is also commonly asked question in interviews. What port does Nessus by default run on? So it's 8834. So whenever you want to access Nessus, you have to just visit this URL, localhost 8834, and that's going to open up Nessus on your system. There will not be any desktop icon or anything as such. Okay, for Nessus, you have to always open it up in your browser itself here. Okay, so click on connect via SSL. This will throw me an error like this, warning potential security risk ahead, because I don't have an SSL certificate for this. But don't worry, just click on advanced, scroll down, and click on accept the risk and continue. And when you do that, this should start the second part of Nessus installation. So this might take a minute. Let's wait for a while. It will ask us to enter the activation code now. Yeah, so it should give you this screen saying welcome to Nessus. Click on continue. It will ask us to purchase a Nessus instance. You don't need to go for any purchase. Just click on register for Nessus Essentials. Click on continue. It'll give you this prompt again to get an activation code. But if you remember, we have already gotten the activation code, so we don't need to register again. So you can click on skip. And here you can enter the activation code. So paste the activation code that you just copied and just click on continue. Again, it's going to confirm the activation code one more time. So click on continue again. And now give your credentials, username, admin, and password, anything of your choice. But please do remember, again, try to read the password which you enter. Okay, because if you forget the password, there is no way to get into your account again. You have to uninstall and install the whole tool again. Okay, so give a password of your choice and click on submit. That's it. And now this starts downloading something called plugins. So plugins are basically the scripts it uses to scan each and every vulnerability on your system, guys. So this takes at least around 15 to 20 minutes or so, because it needs to download across 70,000 to 80,000 plugins to test for each and every vulnerability on your system. So this downloading procedure takes very long. After downloading, then it will compile and install all the plugins. That takes another 15 minutes or so. So the whole procedure will take at least 30 minutes to complete. So you have to be a bit patient with that. Secondly, your system should not go into sleep mode. So if you have any sleep settings enabled on your device, so go to change PC sleep settings and give a larger duration here or a longer duration. Okay, so rather than 10 minutes or so, give 1 hour or 2 hours or something like that. Okay, so that's important. Okay, so once that is, come again, Arif, I couldn't hear you properly. Yeah, your base machine. Yeah, again, if you notice, I've installed this in my base machine itself. It's not on my, again, virtual machine. I've not started my VMware yet. So whatever installation you do for Nessus, you can install it in your base machine, in your original laptop operating system. And from that Nessus application, you can scan your virtual machines later on. Okay. So again, do not install it on virtual machine, guys. You cannot allocate much RAM to a virtual machine. So install this in your base machine itself. Okay. And again, as mentioned, this will take a while, guys. It needs to download at least 70 to 80,000 plugins or so, with which it can scan every single vulnerability in your organization. So no matter what firewall you use, what routers you use, what servers you use, what client operating systems you use, what IDS IPS systems you use, this tool is capable of scanning every single endpoint and checking what system contains what services, and among those services, which of them contains a misconfiguration or a vulnerability. So again, a very, I would say, a very advanced tool, bleeding edge tool, or I don't know what it's called, cutting edge or bleeding edge or whatnot. But again, a very advanced, technologically advanced tool, capable of automating your vulnerability testing. Okay, so once this tool is installed, in the next session, we're going to learn how to run this tool and perform a scan. And once that scan is done, we get a report telling us which system contains what loopholes. And on those loopholes, we perform something called pen testing or vulnerability assessment. Okay. So first we are performing vulnerability scanning in the next class. After that, we perform vulnerability assessment. From the report that is generated by the vulnerability scanning tool, we get a list of vulnerabilities. And each of those vulnerabilities now is manually verified. Okay. So we manually verify each and every vulnerability shown in the report by performing penetration testing on them, by attacking on those vulnerabilities and checking if the vulnerability is truly existing or not. So that is called as assessment of vulnerabilities, VAPT, vulnerability assessment and pen testing. Okay. And for that, we have another tool called Metasploit. So we'll talk about that in the next sessions. Okay. So yeah, nothing further, guys. Again, a very simple tool and a very simple procedure today, but again, a time-taking procedure. So you have to be a bit patient with it. So once the installation is done, you will get a login screen where you can enter your credentials and log into Nessus. So we'll talk about all that in the next session, guys. Nothing further for our session today. Any questions, any doubts? Arif, Pratap. Arif. I'll share the recordings by tonight. I will. Sure. Oh, yeah. I completely forgot about that. Yeah. Any answers, guys? How do you prevent DOS attacks and DDoS attacks? No, you can't kill the server. That would be, again, disrupting. That would, yeah, again, that would work in the favor of the hacker, right? His main purpose is disrupting the services. So if you kill the server, you would be helping the hacker to, again, successfully perform that attack. So that is not the solution. There might be other solutions. Did you search for them though? Is the question. Did you search for answers? Did you do your research? Then do search for them, Arif. Again, please do. Again, in cybersecurity, this is one of the most important points, guys. Again, doing research. Not Trojan. How do you prevent a DOS or a DDoS attack in a network? How do you prevent these DOS denial of service or distributed denial of service attacks? Okay. So again, do your research on this, and we'll talk about that in the next session. Okay. So again, as mentioned in cybersecurity, yeah, in cybersecurity, researching is very important, guys, because every single day you have a new vulnerability, you have a new tool to attack with, you have a new, again, what do you say, a new technique to attack that vulnerability. So again, basically, it's all about updating yourself with the latest knowledge. Okay. So what I'm teaching is, sure, no worries. So what I'm teaching is only, I would say, this would be helpful for you for the next 1 year, maybe max to max. After that 1 year, you would notice that there's a lot of new techniques to attack on certain vulnerabilities. So cybersecurity is an ever evolving job role where you have to keep updating yourself, and that's what keeps this job role or this domain interesting as well. Rather than you doing monotonous things every single day, this involves you thinking out of the box and trying to find vulnerabilities on latest technologies and latest services. So yeah, a lot of these things can be automated as well, but still you would require some manual intervention to verify if the tools are working properly or not. So yeah, again, you need to learn how to perform good research, guys, in cybersecurity. That's a very integral part of cybersecurity. Learning things on your own and trying to research and trying to use them, or manually apply those things what you learn online. Okay, so that's an important point. So try to do your research, try to find what answers are you can get to prevent DOS attacks and DDoS. If not, I'm going to explain it anyhow in the next session. Okay. So yeah, that's that. Nothing further for our session today. Let's exit the session here, guys. Back on Monday. Sure. Bye bye. Bye, Arif. Bye. Yeah, Pratap. Yeah, sure, Pratap. No worries. I'll share all the recordings to all of you. For the last 7 classes, I'll share the recordings. No worries, Pratap. Bye bye.